Hello, my name is Dr. George Mochock, and welcome to Finance 225 International Business. We'll be covering Chapter 6, Government Influence on Exchange Rates. All right, so you're either taking me in an online class or a face-to-face class at Harper College. You've read the material. That means you read the book as your first exposure. You will go to the course, Blackboard course management system. You'll click on the attachment, my PDF file of my concept maps. Basically, that's what we'll be going through. If you notice, it's this one here has got 2 pages, 2 sides. You print it out. We can print it out on one side. So a lot of students like to tape it together. You write your information on here. I've got to the second tier. Read it, add on. Some of you could expand it. Remember, because it's in a PDF, you can make it larger, make it to 4 sections, so it's easier for you to learn. Covers all the material that you after you read the book, and you should be all right. This week I'm going to use the concept map, so just same concept map, but I'm going to show you how you should just identify even with the concept map. The mind maps are to give you, look, you have to read the book. You come to the class and listen to the lectures, ask any questions, or if you're on my online class in our discussion board. Okay, so you've got the questions, you already understood this. Now the concept maps I'm going here is a summarization, what you've already read in the book and what the author has presented. If you don't understand some parts, I'm going through just at the higher level, summarizing what we've covered in this chapter. Then you go back to the author. The author has examples. It's a real detailed example. It'll make you understand. And finance, you remember, you have to be able to take your time. This is going to be your discipline, whether you're going international finance or whether you would consider domestic finance in here. There is some international connection in all finance, corporate finance. Like it or not, you need that international finance, at least on your degree, because we're in a global society. Whether you're in one country or the other, we're always trading, exporting. We have direct investment, everything you're learning. Remember, this course, the book is set up from the MNCs, multinational corporation perspective, and these first 10 chapters are in the global or macro arena. So it's going to basically how different central banks, or different, for lack of better words, interact with other countries, different currencies, and what we've learned from other chapters. Currency is a commodity. It's a good, something like a trade, something else that has a value. It's a piece of paper says this, I got this for so much, but because of the exchange rate between currencies, it goes up. We talked about different factors that affect it, how the government regulates. So this chapter today, chapter 6, okay, so you have that, and then you add on to it. Now, what I'm going to add on to, I'm going to bold out even my concept maps. I'm using too much verbiage, and I have to do that because I got students from all over. This may be the first time you ever had an instructor that uses mind maps, but that's, the mind maps are just to get you the whole visual picture, to help you retain. So you look at it. In business, I can't write all these. I can't have 50 pages of notes. I just have so many notes, and I have keywords. And those keywords trigger something in here that I've already read, learned, discussed. It's just in here, and those are the keywords that unlocks that little area in your brain, whether it's on the right or left side. Hopefully, it's all the emotions. You're listening to me, you're reading, and you're writing, and you're looking at the visuals. Everything else affects you, and that you're awake to. So all those senses that, oh, wow, this is really interesting, I really learned something. All those senses helps you retain and solidify it, put it into your long-term memory. That's what you're looking for. All right, so let's go on to here. I'm going to do a little different. I always try to start off a little. On this one here, like I said, so we're going to talk about the exchange rate system. We're going to talk about the EU a little bit more. China's a little bit different. We'll get into some chapters further on directly on China. But if China's a country that you're interested in, you look at the China Central Bank. Click in there and find out what information they have. First of all, go through the sites that we have, from some of the CIA sites, for lack of a better word, some of the Federal Reserve sites that that we've talked about. New York Stock Exchange, the Federal Reserve out of New York. Remember, the Federal Reserve is so many districts. I want to say 10 or 12, give or take. All right, but there's so many districts, and it's a New York district that does most of the interactions. Within the international market. Whew. Okay, so let's look at some of the websites. All right, so we'll talk about that. Single Europe, why does government intervene? You know, and if I look at intervention, what kind of policy tools? We're looking from a central. It could be fiscal, or it could be what do you call it? From the central bank. But since it's a finance, we'll be more focused from a central bank perspective. Okay, and then you have the summary. So let's look at some of the websites. Remember, open it up. Remember, you can make the slides bigger. I could cut it in there. I could even save it in 4 sheets if students want it larger. You know, a lot of times I try to minimize it to 2, but finance is a lot of information. You're almost learning a whole brand new information, a new language. Not to a perspective as new language, but new vocabulary. Okay, so I'm going to try to keep this under an hour. I did good last week, 50 minutes, 54 minutes. Okay, so this site here is info on the European Union. Just a general. Remember, I got 13 stars. That's how the U.S. started off, right? I think got 13. Maybe they added more. Let me see. They always had kept it in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, they added more stars. Okay, 13 was the original, just like we started off in 1776, if I'm not mistaken. Geez, remember, I'm a business major, not a historian. Okay, so you know how it works. Different countries are involved in the EU. It's got all the member countries and when they join. You know, because the EU is fairly recent. So you look at all the members, right? So you have it. I think it was like 27 or something, give or take. But you could, and then you find out. Now remember, even though they're utilizing the same euro, and that's what we're going to be talking about, how the if one to the central bank. Look at the European Union, similar to as you would look at the United States. I got different economics. Forces affecting me in Florida than I may have in Illinois or Chicago area where I live, up in Lake Zurich area where all right? You know, I mean, in the northern half in Cook County and in Lake County. So if I'm looking at those environment, you know, so Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa, the different states around, right? So they have it, but overall, what's the economic monetary policy of the U.S. because all those different districts of the Federal Reserve, or which we in the United States would call the central bank, but we just call them the Fed. All right, the Federal Reserve, all those districts are reporting what's happening in that economic, geographic, what force they're affecting, and then they're taking an average of that, and that's to say here's where the economy is going up, it's going down, and so they do policy. So the European Union, in perspective, is similar to that. Real quickly, and if you're taking me for intro to business or in finance, they talked about it, or some of your other classes if you're taking in geography. Because remember, a lot of times you take a geography, what do I have to know about geography? So you know the different cultures, you know the different country, what's the resource. I'm a business person. I have to understand not only the customers, the clientele, I have to understand other factors that may be affecting me. Okay? That's from my social science, business social science. Kick that in, you need that information. Okay, so you have different things, you know, joining, different European symbols, you know, the European flag, you had 12 stars, you know, gold, blue around center of people, you know, and I think they went up 19, they added, if I'm not mistaken, you know, because I know there's more than 12 there, all right? So when you look in a little history, Europe date, so it gives you some general information by the topic. Okay, if I'm looking by certain topics, you know, I'm looking at competition, who are my consumers, you know, and all this, you know, citizenship, you know, I'm looking more into finance in this class. A nice thing if you're doing international business, I'm just saying it's a good site, keep it, don't lose it. Remember I told you before, save these sites, you know, it talks about political and economic issue. The other site we talked about is the European Central Bank, remember, and I think there's a link in here if you can't find it. So we go into the bank, and what does it tell me? And here's the European Bank, you know, try majors, and let's see, okay, so I have information interested in this domain. Okay, so for some reason it might be out. I have to find the other one, the bank. I probably got the wrong link. I'll fix it next time. Look it up in the book. And remember, any kind of links that are free, sometimes they get changed, or somebody, you know, my own links, I forgot to renew it, and you know, so you know, maybe it's the time for another link. Depends on what activity you have it. All right, so now business international settlement. We already had this BIS, international settlement, and you know it's in English. You know, websites, and this one's kind of good because it links sites and central banks around the world. Some are in English, some are not. It just gives you some information. Some of the larger ones, maybe, you know, Bank of Africa, you know, different banks alphabetically. You could go by, you know, let's see what we have in Hong Kong. Let's do Hong Kong. I know it'd be in English. Okay, you know, Iraq Central Bank and Republic, the website. Okay, so if I'm looking at the banks, you got different banks that you could be looking at. You know, Germany. You have your, you know, there's your Hong Kong bank. Okay, let's see what we have on here. Some of them have it in English translation. Get the monetary. Okay, consumer link. So it does have it in English. I already know. Key function. So but it also has it if I want to do in their language. Okay, so it gives me information. Look, you're not going to know everything about every global, but if you're looking at something's going on and you hear the rumors, remember you're not a speculator, but you got a country in Hungary, you got a country in Hong Kong, a country, a company or a direct investment in Hong Kong. What's going on here? That's what you need the sites. Remember, utilize them. They're out there. These sites just connect to other bank. How do I find other bank? It's a credible site gets you in there. Okay, so and you utilize it for most in finance. So those sites I would just save. I force you to look at it now because I hopefully to whet your appetite. Most students, some students will. If this is your finance, you should know about it. And a lot of times there's people that, I had an individual in one of my classes from the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. He knew everything about the stock market. He didn't know anything about business, but he knew a lot about that stock market. He was in it. He had that passion. So I'd utilize him in the class. But he knows more than I do because he's inside. He's in the inside. I'm from the outside, how it marked. He's from the inside, so he could have a different perspective. But then you still have to know global. So everyone has its expertise. That's how you find out. Go on the inside. Look at the research. And look at the bank that's, you have to do every central bank. My goodness. This is out there. You could if you want to. Some people like to research. Depends what your research is as you go on, progressing with countries you're operating in. Those are the ones you want to really make sure you understand. Okay, and then we have ours, the Federal Reserve Board, FRB, in recent direction intervention. And here's, again, different markets. Let's see if I got this one working. Page not found. Okay, so I can't find a page. Just go back in the data and statistics. Because sometimes they take the information out, different funds, regional economic view. So what's going to tell me? It goes manufacturing, housing. Tells me, and then you can find out what the district's views in New York. So it gives you some information, okay? Let me see. I don't want to turn it off. Okay, are we good? You have the sites. Utilize the sites. I pushed you in there. The sites are in the link in Blackboard and course management. Remember, you've already taken corporate finance and accounting classes. So this whole course that you're taking me with at a community level college, at Harper College, is focusing in on learning terms and terminology. You'll have some homework that's been mapped, but I won't be focusing on the exam because that's just way too much information coming in here. But this information is your baseline. So when you're learning the language and then you go into your bachelor's, you take it to the next level, your master's, and hopefully in your PhD is going to be international finance or some aspect. International business, you should take a national finance class because business is all about money, like it or not. Accounting says accounting is the language of money. Accounting just tells me where my money's at. Finance is basically the power of the money. How do I use that money where it tells me I have there? How do I invest it to make more money so accounting can say, yes, you're doing a good job, or job well done. Okay? All right, so let's see. What's our overview? We're going to talk about exchange rates used by various governments. All right, which one, and we talked a little bit about fixed, different ones. We touched it, and you had some of that information in you already had it in your readings, so you kind of know what I'm talking about. Okay, European currency development and implications of a single currency and how government intervenes. They use either a direct intervention influence, that they're doing it, or in foreign exchange, how they affect different markets, or a lot of times when you say indirect, it's kind of like subtle because they use the factors that we've talked about in earlier chapters. Okay, so we've taken care of that. Okay, so let's talk about the exchange rate. What we have, and I guess systems, they're all systems. Okay, so we're going to talk about first thing, fixed system, floating system, managed float system, peg system. China is in there, kind of going a little bit more of a little managed, and some advantages and disadvantages you should be aware of. Remember, because it depends what country and what system they're utilizing is, remember, finance and corporate finance, terms and conditions. What are the rules? What are the factors? What's going on there that I have to understand? Okay, so let's talk real quickly about rate systems classified by degree of government control. How much of the control? Remember, the government is central banking. Here in the U.S. we call it the Fed, but it's the central banking. The different central banking in China, the different ones in Afghanistan. You saw all those various central banking in the websites that we had up here. Remember, the Federal Reserve, or this one, Business for International Settlements. Okay, so now let's talk about what's the fixed exchange rate. What are exchange rate? We already discussed that. They're either held constant, don't change. They fluctuate, most of them, because of validity of the what do you call it, the currency, you know, stability, how active it is, the bull market or the bear market, your word is, you know, dollar one day it could go, it just explode, or it just whimpers down. Okay, are held constant, or they fluctuate only within a narrow boundaries. And sometimes something happens with the exchange rates, maybe in a geographic area. Right now, there's a lot of things going on in the Middle East, so that sometimes there's going on when Russia was doing the things with Ukraine. So now the Western Hemisphere, the exchange rates were fluctuating. Is there going to be a war? Are people going to pull the money back? Is the government going to stop any kind of flow of commerce? You know, I'm a business person. I'm not, unless I'm developing like boning or something else, then maybe that's a good plus. But me, most things I'm just dealing with the regular consumer. But that may affect me. Should, you know, I got a distribution there? Can I get in? Is it going to be destroyed? Whatever. I have to make those assumptions. Okay. So it may affect it. Okay, now central bank. Central bank does several things by, remember, this isn't a fixed exchange rate. And this is what they're doing. You know, and later on we're going to talk about what is direct or indirect. Devaluating fixed exchange rate by reducing the value of the currency against other currencies. They call it devaluation, depreciation. Now they're doing that. China sometimes was doing that, and sometimes, you know, when they're pegged, we'll talk later on, they say they're not anymore in a free floating market. But what's going to happen if they control that? If they keep the dollar, here's the thing: you have to look at economic policy. We want more people to work. So how are they going to be working? That means you want to buy more of our product. How are people outside the U.S. going to buy our product? If the dollar is strong, no, it's good for importing stuff that we can buy more, but exporting, you want a weak dollar. So now our goods are lower to our competitors. If a country controls that aspect of the exchange rate by devaluating it, because they need more people being employed, so now our dollar's lower, they could sell more products. Remember, when you look at economics, I could either sell fewer products at a higher price, or I could sell more products at a lower price, and then when I look at the profit margin, return on my investments after everything's all paid off, you know, then that what I have comparable. Macy's compared to Walmart, if I'm mistaken, last time I looked, they're fairly close on the profit margin in the same revenue. Fewer stores, you know, Walmart's more intense, the stores, but you know, smaller items are selling higher profit. Walmart, more items are lower profit, lower costs, and they're coming out the same. Your strategy, and it's the same thing you have to look at. Okay, so that's devaluating, reducing the value of the currency. Again, let me move this over again. Okay, so we're looking at it so you can see against other currencies called devaluation or depreciation. All right, now revalues, because the economy, I want to raise it up. I want to either control inflation or whatever. Remember, I'm looking from I'm an MNC looking what the governments are doing in a macro position of their country. Maybe worldwide, is it going to be a trend coming across here, or is it just in the region? Is it just going to be in the Middle East, or is it going to be in the Asian region, or is it going to be in the European region? Where is it happening? Okay, is it in the African area? Those countries that can affect. Okay, now revalue. Increase the value of his currency. I got the arrows. I'm going to try to use more symbols. Now, I haven't started on this, but here's what I wanted to say. If I was doing my concept maps, let me just add this on this one, exchange rate, I wouldn't write all these other things. I'll just get rid of it. That's how I do my maps. You read it, you understand it. This is summarization. These are just triggers. Yes, I understand that, because you already know a fixed rate. Exchange rate, held constant, fluctuate, narrow boundaries. That's all I had to remember. That's all you study. A lot of people, when you're studying in your book, I know when I look at some of the students' books, I say, I can't do well, Dr. George. I did all this study. I look at the book, all highlighted. Woo! The whole book is yellow. A nice buzz when you're looking at the yellow paper. All I need is the keywords. You know it. This doesn't do you any good unless you already read the material. I've got this information. I just did it. I put it in this folder here. So I know my bills are in this folder. Or if I'm doing something at Harper College, it's this folder. If I'm doing something at another college I teach at, it's in that folder. That's all this is doing. But it comes back to you quickly. It's, you know, the same thing we do in a PowerPoint presentation. You know the information. Those are just triggers. And this is triggers for memorization. So you already know. You're already in the mindset. It's in your mind and just trying to pull it out because you used all your senses. Remember, I'm also trying to teach you how to learn a lot of this information. Okay? So you got it? Okay, so now we're going to go and revalue. I want for some reason my currency to be worth more. I want to import more for whatever reason. Okay? Increase the value of the currency against other currencies called revaluation appreciation. And we're going to show different ways of doing that. Okay, what are some of the advantages of fixed exchange rate? Insulate the country from risk of currency appreciation, allows the firm to engage in direct foreign investment. So here, advantages, currency appreciation, I just put an arrow. That's all I would have to do. You know, allows firms to engage in, so I'm just going to say engage foreign investment. I don't need anything else. Get rid of all that fluff. You need that when you're writing the paper or you're writing a response to your client. But here, for memorization, I just need the keyword. So now start highlighting. I'm trying to teach you how to use mind map in learning. Remember, you're taking me to college level. In most community college, we're giving you the basic understanding. That's what you're going to learn about international finance. But also the basic learning skills, emotional skills, learning skills that you need that you could transfer to going for any course you take when you're taking notes. Remember, finance, math, it's a word problem. I just identified the key thing. The rest is fluff, right? Makes it easy to flow, but I just need these, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on. Afterwards, I could add that to make it flow. Okay. Now, what are some disadvantages of a fixed exchange rate? Risk that the government will alter the value. Okay, country and MNCs, multinational corporation, may be more vulnerable. I'm taking a risk. Okay, this is good, but what if they, they revalued it? But what if they devalue it for whatever reason? Because they're trying to adjust their the economy, how it's moving. Okay, now history fixed rate. There's just some information. Each currency was valued in terms of gold. We've talked that a couple of chapters. I'm not going to ask you that, but maybe the final may have it because it's comprehensive and it comes from a test bank. So, but just in case. Smith-Solomon Agreement, 1970. So everything after 1973, it went into what I would call all pegged from the gross domestic product. What's our productivity, or I hate to say funny money, but money that's there's really no commodity behind it except the output of the nation. It's not only our nation that works on this; it's other nations. But China's coming in with their yuan that they may want to make that as a currency, and if this the next, I think it's already surpassed us in economic potential. We owe them a lot too. Okay, but anyway, so you have I'm not saying anything else to discourage you. It's just facts. So that's why you're learning this. How, as a multinational, could I help not only the United States but other countries? But here we're looking at a multinational corporation operating out of the United States. Okay. Now the next one we're going to talk about is a free floating exchange rate. Exchange rates are determined by market forces. Let me just bring this up here a little bit. Okay. Without government intervention, it's free. The market's going to tell me what's going on. Okay. So that's what we're looking at. Excuse me for. Okay. It popped up. Okay. So now what are some of the advantages? Remember, no free floating exchange rate. No one's touching. It's just market forces, pure capitalistic system that we've learned, that you've learned in economics. Okay. Advantages. Country insulated from inflation of other countries because free floating, so I'm not controlled. Country insulated from unemployment of other countries. Theirs may go down, might go up. Remember what happens in the United States that we talk about, and look at the European Union, similar to what's going on in the U.S. in our markets. Okay. Does not require, just looking to make sure my mic is still on, does not require the central bank to maintain exchange rates because it's the market forces are doing it. That's a true competitive capitalistic system is the market. If you can't compete with the market, it just kicks you out. That means you shouldn't be in their market, and that's how, there's no rules and everything else. Your prices are too high, customers ain't buying it, and you're sold out, somebody buys you out. With specific boundaries, always with a certain limitation. What are disadvantages? Can adversely affect a country that has the high employment because no one else is touching me. I'm like, all right, toxic currency, for lack of better words. That means it's worthless for or anything else, high inflation, or just whatever the causes may be. Adversely affect the country with inflation. I'll to try to leave it to the author's examples, everything else I can move along. Okay, so we've got that free floating. The next one, and you should know these, okay, the next one is managed float exchange rate. Governments can sometimes intervene to prevent their currencies from what? Remember, this is what you have, so you go, oh, what? I already read this, and when I was printing out, you'd write your stuff, and you got to get rid of it. I just got gov, you're going to start seeing me abbreviate government. I don't need all that. I know gov what it is, and I forget this sometimes, and I would just basically go intervene in, currencies, and that's all I would do, okay? So here's what I'm moving too far. in a central direction. So what I want you to do is highlight the big word, highlight the key words here out of this. So remember, I'm bringing it down. The author had a whole paragraph. I brought it down to a few sentences, similar to his PowerPoint. And now I want you to bring it down more, less and less. You read it, you understand it. These are triggers. Okay, countries with a floating exchange rate, right? Currency is the most large developed country allowed to float. They may be periodically managed by the respective central bank. So all I would write is allowed to float by respective central banks, and I'd get rid of all that, and that'll make make it easier for you to understand. Remember? Because you already know what you're talking about: currencies, float rate. Okay, and then they have an exhibit, different currencies. Mexico. Let's see, countries with floating exchange rates and their currency. Yeah, well, peso. Australia is the dollar. Brazil is real. What I mean. Dollar, peso, krona. Okay. The baht. A new dollar. Are we okay? And you'll see their symbols and everything else when you go into some of the central banks. Tell you what their currency symbols looks like. What are some criticisms in a floater rate? Managed floats allows a government to manipulate exchange rate. Would a government manipulate exchange rates? Yes, they would. We do it all the time also, the U.S. government. Remember, you're going to find indirectly and indirectly. Okay, to benefit its own country at the expense of others. You're always trying to look out for your own self. Hopefully, MNC is not doing that. Okay, now pegged exchange rate. Okay, home currency value is pegged to one foreign currency or annexed to index to currencies. We'll talk a little bit in a couple of chapters on there. It's like a bond, like a Dow Jones index only for currency. Okay, we'll talk about it. You got enough to remember here. I don't want to throw in too much here. Just like, where did that come in? And later on, it's going to be for the test. Let's just leave it like that. What are some limitations? Remember, PEG may attract foreign investments because they got a smile face, trying to get the emotions in here, so it's not real dry. Exchange rate is expected to remain stable. So limitation, remain stable. So it's not changing. I'm not getting, it's okay. Now, so that's why investors are going to invest in there. May not be, that's why they still invest in the U.S. It's low but stable. Can cause firms and investors to question whether the peg will be broken. Right? Something happens, will they break that peg because they have to be forced, like kind of China is a little bit forced, or to make it more free floating if they want to play in the economic currency, world currency. Okay, and some examples. What do I have in here? Just some examples. MEGPEG system. China stopped in 2005. Venezuela PEG system. At 210. Okay, currency boards used to peg the currency values. Remember, you've read this. This is just a real summarization. A system of pegging value of local currency to specific other currency. So I would just go pegging value, local currency, to other specific. Get rid of some of the ands and does. Here's how I try to bring it in. Look at this when you guys are texting, guys and gals. Right? When you're texting me, I don't text the whole thing. Even though texting, I could talk to Sarah, whatever her name is, and she'll basically find words for me, and I can always correct them. You abbreviate. That's what you're doing here. My abbreviation, how I would abbreviate, may make it confusing for you. So you abbreviate in your own text. I'm giving you a lot of latitude. I want you to start learning how I'm doing this. If I'm doing this, get the keyword, and you do a manual. There's your community colleges, most community colleges. I know Harper has. There's a lady that basically teaches how to do conceptual maps, mind maps. She'll give you what the ands are, so you understand that. And then you'll take on to the next level, taking on a business mind map. Business mind map, I could eliminate. I don't need the R's, the but. I already know that. I could put that in. I'm at a different level, so I just want key things so I could look at it, keep me on track, and go forward. Okay? So remember, get rid of some of the stuff, or if you want, use a black and just keep the words you want, make a copy, boom, boom, boom. And so now you're only focusing on what you want, or a white marker. I should have a white marker. Here's a white marker for that, then I could eliminate stuff. All right? Okay, interest rate for that currency has printed. Okay, the board must maintain currency reserves for all currency that it has printed. Okay, so that's currency boards use to peg currency values. They still have a reserve for everything that they have printed out. Okay, and remember, we're talking about the peg exchange rate. Okay, the next one here, I'll leave it like that way so you can always see what we're talking about. Interest rates of peg currencies you know, my picture's probably in here. I'm talking, but so you can still see it. Interest rate will move in a tandem with the interest rate of the currency to which it be tied. I would highlight, you know, interest rate, move in tandem, and which is tied. And remember, you already know it. But if I just put that in here and you never read it, you'll be lost. This just gives you something, how you can get rid of some of the verbiage. Okay, the next one, exchange rate, risk of a peg. You remember, highlight what you think is important out of all this and get rid of the does, the that. You know, you just want the key words, similar to how you'd be dissecting a word problem and creating a mathematical equation or a formula. You've taken all this information, here's the x, here's what my y is, and I'm looking for x minus y. What am I looking for? There's a time, t minus t, you know, what are my factors, f, you know, multiply. That's what you're trying to do here. But you're doing this you're not doing a math problem, you're just just getting the key word. What are the key concepts? I got the key concepts. Whatever question is asked, I can always adjust it because I know the key concept. I can say, what did he ask me for? No, I know the answer instead of trying to study word for word. And you needed this when you're doing a presentation. You're moving up the corporate ladder, middle manager. You're going to be talking. You're going to be reading off a script. Trust me. You had the key concepts to keep you on track, and you know exactly when the questions are coming at you, and your mind is adjusting. Here's the key concept. Nope. Here's how I respond back to it. Okay? Remember, you learn the material, but also you need the skill set to be successful. Not only written, but communication. This is one way. And I hand this to somebody else, and like you, now you could learn, and you could say, what did I learn in chapter 6? You could go through this real quickly, over and over. It's in your mind. When you see the question, a lot of times you won't even need this. But you have to understand it, learn it. Okay, exchange rate risk of the peg provides examples of countries that have pegged the exchange rate of their currency to specific currency. Currencies are commonly pegged to the U.S. dollars or to the euro. And you'll see this. So here's a classification. I think that's what it is. Let me show you. It's in your book. And you know, this one's pegged to the U.S. dollar, euro. Yeah, you're right. Portfolio currency to the euro represents 67% of the weight. The rest is pegged to the U.S. dollar. Now remember, China could come in here too. Don't underestimate that. Right now, the only thing that China is kind of like learning how to use their stock market, how to intervene to keep their exchange going. So that people are saying, "Oh man, it's like a new kid on a bike." But trust me, they're very sharp. They will pick up on that, and once they pick up on that, that is going to be, you're going to see U.S. dollar, or the yuan, the Chinese, because they're going to be powerful in it. I'm not trying to say one of it. Competition is good. Right now, you only have 2 competitors pegged. The more you have it, it makes us more competitive, more determined. Remember, like it or not, that's the free market that we created. That's the capitalistic market, and this is the global market. But you want all countries, the major players, playing fairly in that. Okay, let me just keep on going. I keep on throwing up too much. Okay, now dollarization, replacement of foreign currency with a dollar. Process is a step beyond the currency board. It forces the local currency to be replaced by the U.S. dollar. And when you see a country with a U.S. dollar or euro, it depends where they're located, and their currency is falling. And I'm going to throw yen in for lack of a better word, because there's a lot of stuff going on in there. But let's take that. That's in the newspaper. It's current and everything else. So their currency may be weak. So what do they basically do? They're either going with the euro or the U.S. dollars. You want to exchange it, or they barter goods, gold or something else that they need. But their currency may not be, because the new government may come out. They may keep the same currency, mostly they do, or they may change it or do something else with it. Because a lot of money, remember, people don't have the cash, it's into banks electronically. So and look what happened with Greece. Those who've been following it, you know how the whole banking system went under, and you couldn't take any money, or they said a certain percentage goes to the government, and it's not from checking, it's from your savings. That means you pay tax and everything else. Okay, dollarization and currency board both attempt to peg the local currency's value. Currency does not replace the local currency with dollars. That's all it does. Okay? Not replaced with the dollars. Are we good on this? So we have this. Pretty good? Okay, so I'll just close that. Okay, let's go single European. Let's look at, now this one you'll get from the, when I looked at the site, the introduction to the European Union. So we'll look at the monetary policy. Remember, we'll be looking at the EU currency, the dollars. Let's bring this easier so you can see everything. Okay, let's monetary policy. European Central Bank. I almost forgot what the heck I put it in there myself. Okay, I'm trying to do this. Utilize acronyms, bring it down. European Central Bank, based in Franklin. Monetary policy, European Union. Responsible for... See, now when I'm going forward, I'm highlighting what you would need to know. The rest, white out, white out, white out, white out. So when I'm studying, that's all I need. Keyword. You know, I'm going to do it in this one, not in all of them. The rest of them I want you to do on your own. Get a white out, or you got the white out pens. If you just white out as you go, just and just keep your keywords or highlight. And now you're bringing the smaller and smaller. Okay? What's the objective of the monetary policy? Control inflation in participating countries, stabilize with reasonable boundaries, and value of the euro with respect to major currencies. Okay, you see what you need. Okay, here's the dollar. Prices of product are now more comparable with other European countries. Okay, makes sense. Okay, so that's to impact the eurozone. All my prices kind of stable, like most prices in the U.S. Look at the gas price. You get the high, low, but it's kind of an average what they say most people should be paying. I'm just using something that you could compare. Impact of firms of the eurozone. Bond investors who reside in the eurozone. Remember, single euro currency we're talking. Can now invest in bonds issued by Gov. That's all I need. I'll get rid of the rest. Corporation, abbreviated. What makes sense. Think of it like you're doing your texting. But remember, you're doing your own. How I abbreviate may be different than how you abbreviate. This kind of common abbreviation, so if somebody else is looking at it, makes sense. In these countries without concerns about exchange rate risk, as long as the bonds denominations are in euros. Okay? Now the next one, exposures of countries in Eurozone. Single European policy prevents what? Remember? Any individual country from solving local economic problems. I have a single policy, so it's supposed to help all. Some may have little issues, and I we saw that with Greece. Okay, with its own unique monetary policy. Any given monetary policy used in the Eurozone during a particular period may enhance conditions in some countries and adversely affect others. Remember, it works well here, but because something else going on in my forces in my micro, that country, in that state, or that eurozone, everything else is all right except for Greece is having a problem, or some other partners, or Poland may having some problem with this zloty. So the whole policy is affecting me. I can't get out because I don't control my own monetary policy. I can't raise. I can't do appreciate or devalue my currency because it's one currency for all. But I have no. So I hope that the central bank of that federation or that region knows what they're doing. Hopefully they do. Okay, impact on federal financial flows in the eurozone. I put the bell, it means a warning. Impact crisis. What do we have there? May affect the economic conditions. Remember, we're still looking at this one here. We're looking at single euro currency. Okay, so let me just close it down. Maybe it'll bring it in more. Okay. Very good. Okay, so I'll do it like this. So then you can see what we're talking about. It'd probably work better. Impact may affect economic conditions of all other participating countries. They all rely on the same currency, the same monetary policy, the what do you call it? European Central Bank role in resolving economic crisis. Okay, so what are they going to do? The bank's role of expansion to include providing credit for the Eurozone countries that experience financial crisis. The European Central Bank imposes restrictions. Here's the rules, terms and conditions. Do you accept it or not? Just like an MNC has to do it, the country has to accept it, and then it flows down and says, this is the rules they have. Me as a business operating, I have to operate with the new rules that have that the central bank has imposed in that region or in that country. Intent to help resolve the country's problems, budget deficit problems over time. Look at it as a financial advisor helping you. All right? So I close that on. So we have that. Now what lessons you learn? Financial problems in one bank can easily spread to other banks. Banks, remember looking at a single currency, banks in the Eurozone frequently engage in low participation. Companies are having trouble repaying. All banks may be effective. If I'm real loose with my loaning, and how my requirements to attain a loan from this central bank, because the rules are real loose, and they go under because the companies are overvalued and they all go bankrupt. It affects the whole core because it's part of the whole system of the central banking system. Okay? Now, news about concerns in one area of the Eurozone can trigger actions in other. People are starting pointing out, people close to Greece, is the Central Bank of Europe can have problems. There's even taking money out and switching it to the U.S. bank, or they think there's going to be a financial crisis here. You see some people are taking money out, they're listening. There could be, who knows. But, I'm a speculator, I'm a company. There's a good high probability to start moving money out. In the Eurozone countries, must rely on fiscal policies when they experience serious financial problems. Banks lend heavy to governments. Performance is related where the government can repay, right? You buy my treasury notes, everything else, and if we go under, the bank is hurting because they figured it's supposed to be a safe investment. Okay, so we got rid of that, and now we're going to go on impact. Impact in a country that abandons the euro. We're still a single euro currency. Would allow a country to set its own exchange rate if Greece would have left. Okay, that would be good. Rate to encourage purchases of exports, because I keep it high, so people invest in me, and I could buy stuff or keep my currency low, so it's cheap, which it probably would be. So people will buy my products, but the country has to have something to sell. I'm not sure what Greece has to sell. They got tourism and everything else. What else do they have? No tangible. You can't sell services all the time unless you have a different level, but it's limited. How do I sell goods or something else to the majority, the larger population? Okay, here's the sci-fi impact. I'm leaving. Possibility expelled from the Eurozone. European Union reduces its trade with other European Union, what do you call it, countries. Okay? So I have that impact. Remember, still the single currency. Impact of abandoning the euro on the Eurozone conditions. Now, I left, Greece left. Investors may fear other countries may start abandoning. There may be a domino effect. Reduce investments in the Eurozone because it's not safe. Have different currencies, and which one's going to be evaluated higher, and which one's going to be appreciated, which one's going to be depreciated. And the currency depends what it's like a divorce. Who ends up better? A lot of times both parties suffer, but some may have a higher. It came out better on top, for lack of better words. I'm trying to bring something so you could kind of relate to it. It's not that all right. Critics agreed that the threat of abandonment creates more problems for the actual abandonment. So if Greece left, it gets more problems than who's going to share. It's like I have a townhouse and I got 2 people, 3 people living, paying rent. One leaves, now I got 3 people, so I got to reshuffle my expenses and my requirements for the rest of the, assuming my costs are the same. Okay, so we good on that? Okay, now we're going to go on the other side, and we have a few more here, not 2 more. I'm doing pretty good, but I got to move up a little. Why do government interventions? Why do governments intervene, for lack of better words? There are several reasons. Smoothing the exchange rate. Okay, central bank, the CD, is concerned that its economy affected by abrupt movement. Something's happening in its economy in its home currency value. Remember, currency has a value. Different forces, the output of the country, whatever it has, asset, whatever it has certain value, and something happened in that, threw it off. In Japan when they had the tsunami and the nuclear plant meltdown or whatever, right? They're still working at it. It affected the currency for a short term. What's going to happen? How's it going to go? Because they had a lot of their eggs in one country, not more diversified outside in case something would happen. Okay, attempt to smooth out the currency movements over time. Okay, establishing implicit exchange rate, actually telling me the central bank attempts to maintain their home currency. Just look at my bold. The rest you get rid of. Remember, you already know the material. I'm just helping you so you know how to tweet, for lack of better words. It's all a mind map is a big tweet. But something that makes sense to you when I'm discussing. If the tweet, if I send this to somebody else, they can't read it. What the heck is he talking about? It doesn't mean anything. After a while, I could kind of take it out. More for your use when you're using up there and you're studying. That's why I have all the words here for people who aren't used to it. Eventually, you're going to be a pro at this. Okay, central bank attempt to maintain the currency rates with some unofficial, remember? Implicit, unofficial or implicit, implied hidden boundaries. Okay, to responding to temporary disturbances, the central bank may intervene to insulate the currency's value, protect it from temporary disturbance. Sorry. Okay. And I mentioned before, English is a second language for me. But I shouldn't use that excuse. I've been here for a long time. All right, direct intervention. Now, government intervention. Now, you have the Exhibit 3, and all this does is how do I affect my supply and demand curve? I'm not going to go through this. You already had economics, you had it in accounting, you had it, everything else. You already know the movement which is going. It's just for you. If not, look at it. The author does talks about a little, or go back and look at it. Do a YouTube or do a search on it, and it'll explain it for you. Very simple. Okay. Okay. To force the dollar to depreciate, the central bank, in this case the Fed, because we're talking about the U.S. bank, can intervene directly. Dollars, exchanging dollars that it holds as reserves. Remember, it has to have so much reserves. The central bank also has a reserve, just like it creates the reserve requirement for the deposits and everything else for savings and the checking deposits. For the regular banks, it has its own reserve. For other currencies in the foreign exchange market, by flooding the market with U.S. dollars. Okay, in this manner, the Fed puts downward pressure on the dollars. If the Fed wants to strengthen the dollar, right? Downward pressure. It wants to reduce it. Inflation, so it wants to slow it down a little bit. It wants to strengthen the dollar, prop it up. To strengthen the dollar, the exchange it can an exchange rate. Exchange foreign currencies for dollars. It could do this in foreign exchange markets. And I'm keeping it here, flooding over there. There are pushing pressure on the U.S. dollar. It's propping it up, and something like that. I think China did that to prop our dollar up, because our dollar goes down value. We get more stuff from there, and it affects them. It'll help our balance of trade. So there's the whole issue. Indirectly, implicit, hidden, whatever. Yeah, but you're looking at, there's still a growing economy going. They're playing more fairly to all aspects going forward. But just to be aware, I'm an MNC, I'm going to work in China, I'm looking at what's going on. So you have to look at it. Does it make sense to utilize their currency, keep you there if you're going to be there and invest in? What's the difference? Don't pull it back here. But if something happens, you see it dropping, that's when people start moving. Remember, you still have to do some speculation as a chief financial officer, even though you're not a speculator, unless that's what you are. Okay? So it gives upward pressure. Reliance on reserves. Potential effectiveness of the central bank's direct intervention is the amount of reserves it could use. Can't get rid of all of it. It has to have reserves. It's like your savings. Or in case, you go belly up, what's going to happen in the economy? How do I utilize the reserves to put that currency into work for me to stimulate so it doesn't go down more and more? To prop the value or deflate the value of a currency, usually your home currency or another country's currency if you have enough of theirs. You sell them off, put it back in there. You have more dollars there, chasing less goods. Okay, frequency of intervention. Number of direct interventions has declined. 97 days in 1998 to not more than 20 days in a year. Not bad. Good decline. Why? People are, technology has a lot to do with it. There's more, people are playing more by the rules, hopefully, or everyone's watching itself. Okay, more on a global, so we kind of are stabilizing, you understand? You deal with other ones. You rip me off, they're going to rip you off. It's not worth to have that trade war. We, remember the comparable word, we do what we do well and buy what we don't do as good, as long as the cost is still there. Okay, coordinated intervention, effective when the coordination by several CB central banks in a certain region. Not the European Union, but because that's one central bank. It's the European Union, maybe the Feds, or someplace else, a different central bank, or in Hong Kong, or whatever. Non-sterile versus sterile intervention. Okay, here's the exhibit. Right, look at it. I'm not going to go through it because I'm already running out of time. Pause it if you haven't seen it or you forgot it. Stop it, look at it, follow it through, and then hit the pause and you go forward. That's what I like about the videos. Okay, okay. So I got the exhibit, non-sterile intervention. When the Fed intervenes, let me move this up a little here. Remember, we're talking about direct investments. Right, we're still in direct investments. So let me just, I'm talking about sterile and non-sterile. Okay. Let's see, non-sterile. When the Fed intervenes in the federal exchange market without adjusting for the exchange and the money supply. And then sterile is when the Fed intervenes in the foreign exchange market. Same thing here. It's putting its implicit or hidden way of in there, coming in there, and simultaneously, whew, hey, come on, I've been doing this already for an hour, hopefully less, engages in offsetting the transaction in the treasury security markets. Okay, now speculating. For our speculators, some traders in the foreign exchange market, when the Federal Reserve's intervention is occurring, and extend of the intervention in order to capitalize on the anticipated results of the intervention. All they're looking at is coming in there, it's an event. Do I have myself? Do I got enough money of this currency, or am I getting rid of this money one way? What are they speculating? That's why when the Fed is like teasing them, we're going to raise the rate. I'm buying these. I'm going to wait till next quarter. Do I keep it? What do I do with this? Right? How do I get rid of it? I got burnt again. But if they hit it right, pew, they can make some money or lose some money. Okay? So that took care of that. So let's close that off. Okay? We'll go real quickly. Remember, you can always look at that. I just closed that. So that took care of direct intervention. I just want to see where you're at. You always focus. This is government intervention. Now we're going to talk about indirect. The dollars can affect the dollar's value directly, indirectly, by influencing factors that determine it. And here's the formula. If you want to look at it, it's in the book, right? Not going through it. Okay, here it is. Percentage. This symbol is change of, and you have all this. What they mean. Put in your calculator. Boom, 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 and you'll have your answer. Or in the spreadsheet, which you probably already had through a homework assignment. Or you would. Okay, government control of interest rates. Increase or reducing the value, right? This is indirect. Indirectly, I could increase it. It has a ripple effect, whether people are buying stocks or anything else, or investing in the country, or whether we want to expand because the money's so cheap went in here. And it may even force some people coming in here to do a direct investment because the cost of money is to borrow to do that. Do I use my money or do I use somebody else's money? Which one gives me a bigger return? Okay, now government use of foreign exchange controls, such as restrictions on exchange currencies, okay? Which ones you can trade, which banks are locked out. That's what banks kind of pay the penalties, or you can't play in our field. You can't do this. You got to go to somebody else to trade for you, and they're going to handle a charge. And by the time it could be delayed, you don't want all that information. So it's better off to pay the penalty going for it. I'm just saying what happens. Reality. It's going to cost me. I messed up. If you look at Chase, a lot of the penalties they paid, they still made a lot of money for the investors. The ethics comes in there. If they ripped off this, well, it's going to rip off, but that's not up for me. I'm saying from an investor, you're looking at what's going on. Hey, they did this to pay the penalty. Was it a strategical plan for a multinational organization or a financial institution when they're doing the hedging and doing some of the markets they did in there? How did they handle that? Okay. Now, intervention warning. That's another way. Indirect. They could just come in there and say, "Hey, we to warn the speculators." Announcement could discourage additional speculation. We're going to look into it. Might even encourage some speculators to unwind, or what they call liquidate. So we're going to highlight which ones you think is important. Existing position. You got to don't write all this. This is easy for reading. Just what you have out of a book. Control. Budget, bold what you think is good. Okay, so that takes care of that. Now, interventional policy. And here, I'm not going to go through it here. You got two charts. The nice chart. Look at them. It tells you what they do. Follow them through. Here's what they're doing. Direct intervention. How they want to stimulate the economy, right? Recession, trying to bring it up. Boom, 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 boom. Talks you right through it. Another one, click. You could read. You're adults. You're taking a college level. Look at it. Follow the arrows. Going this way. This way. Boom. All right. Comes back in here. All right. Takes care of it. Okay. We're almost done. I think I have a few minutes. I think this one's going to be hopefully about an hour and 20 minutes. I'm trying to say. Okay. What do you do? Exchange rate system. What do we summary? Exchange rate systems can be classified what? Fixed rates, floating rates, managed rates, and pegged rates. Floating rates, real quickly, exchange rates that are either held constant or allowed to fluctuate only within narrow boundaries. Highlight. Okay, freely floating exchange rates. Exchange rates values are determined by market forces without intervention. Very good. Okay, managed exchange rate. These are ones we talked about. Real quickly, a summarization. Exchange rates are not restricted by boundaries, but are subject to government interventions. Pegged rates. Some people, that's all they study. I'm not saying you to do well, because some of the questions may be essays. You have to give me a little bit more. So keep the concept maps. Has all the information. Pegged exchange rates, we talked about that. Currency is pegged to a foreign currency. Which currency? A unit, usually it's the dollar, but it could be other currency of an account, and moves in line with a currency or a unit. That's what a unit account is. Just throw that in there. So highlight it once against other currencies. Okay? That's the one summary. The next one is numerous European countries, basically talking about the European Union, use the euro as their home currency for everyone. Britain's got a little different. They're still utilizing the pound. That's the relationship they had when they joined the euro. The economic system was already large enough and everything else. They didn't feel they wanted it. They may transfer over, but I'm not sure how that's going right now. Okay, currency, but they allow the euro to come in there. Okay, currency allows international trade. I could be wrong at that, but check into that. It's been a while since I looked at it. Not a while. Things are so fluid out there. All right, among firms in the Eurozone, without foreign exchange expenses, without concerns of future rate movement. Right, single currency allows in there. I could like the dollar. I could use it anywhere in the United States. I could use the euro anywhere within the eurozone. Okay, restriction. Countries that participate in the euro do not have complete control of their monetary policies. Remember, there's two policies: fiscal, taxes, and government spending. Monetary is the central bank. Just a little reminder, because a single policy applied to all countries in the eurozone. In addition, being part of the Eurozone may render some countries more susceptible to crises occurring in some other Eurozone. You can be very reliant, and depends on the region what's happening. It could have an effect on you. You may have all your Detroit. Look what happened in Detroit. All my investment in Detroit, it affected somebody else because that was some of the mutual bonds affected. They went heavily and they weren't diversified. Similar to that. Okay. Like I said, read on it. We already talked about it in the chapter. Read it on it. Just examples. Examples are something for me to take the concept and able to solidify it. I have to kind of see in my mind what's going on. That's what examples are utilized. But for the definition and everything else, you still know the vocabulary. What do they mean? Examples are helping in incorporating the visual, the picture that I want to see. Remember, that's all words are, just pictures in my mind. So if I see the arrows, I see the dollars, that's what I'm trying to put in here. I'm placing pictures. By purchasing or selling currencies, okay, Canada use direct intervention. And how do they do that? In the foreign exchange market, altering the demand, supply conditions, and hence currency's equilibrium values. Government purchases, if I want it up, currency of foreign exchange market puts an upward pressure on the currency equilibrium. I want to government sells currency in a foreign market, puts a downward pressure on the currency. Why are they selling? Why are they purchasing? Remember, think about it. If you're not sure, look back into the book. Remember, your summarization, you should know this by this time. Okay, by influencing the economic factors that affect equilibrium exchange rates, common form of direct intervention is to increase interest rates in order to attract more international capital flows, which may cause local currencies to appreciate to go up. Okay, not the bell warning. Indirect intervention is not always effective. The last thing I have in here, this is all on my summary, and the last one: when Federal Reserve, U.S. intervenes to weaken the dollar. Weaker dollar stimulates the economy, like it or not. That's good for us. Reduces the demand for imports. Remember, here's the economy. Economy's down. Increases foreign demand for our products, right? Because they're buying our products, they still like our products, so now they can afford it. Now, but also increases U.S. inflation. All right. Okay. Now strengthens the U.S. dollars. It's good because remember when looking at strengthening or weakening, that's why I put the balance sign in here. Depends what the economy. That's what I was trying to do. Find that balance. I don't want those abnormal. I want those abnormal returns. But if that's all I'm getting, I'm going to get a lot of abnormal over the abnormal good ones. Okay. Okay, stronger dollar increases U.S. demand for imports, intensifies foreign competition. Strong dollar reduces the inflation and may lead to higher levels of unemployment. Thumbs up means it's good. Thumbs down means it's bad. And I just throw that in just to have somebody from different culture not to understand what the hand signs mean. Remember, hand signs may mean different things for different cultures. So what means peace here or means here may mean completely different from the original intent. So someone may find it offensive. So if you're using kind of hand gestures, make sure you kind of explain them what it is, what the hand gestures for. Okay, so we've done this. Again, my name is Dollarization. Let me just close these all off and we'll see what we have. Expand. And some people ask what program I'm using. I'm using MindJet. It's a business program. I think it's like $300, $200, give or take. I can't remember. I just keep getting a newer version. You get a single license. I'm not selling for the company or anything else, but it's a nice thing. This one I use for presentations. You know, you do it by hand. You also have when you do my brainstorming and everything else. Look at the websites. It's mindjet.com if I'm not mistaken. Nice stuff. There's other ones that are free, but remember, you get what you pay for when you get free. They may not be as updated. This works nicely with Microsoft Word or Microsoft Office, for lack of better words. All right, so my name is Dr. George Mochock. You're taking this at a college level. If you just happen to, I throw this on YouTube because sometimes Harper has I know they have a Harper iTunes U, where as a Harper student you could look at all the videos previously, and there sometimes students may has trouble getting to the site, so I have it on YouTube for those that are taking it as a supplement to the class, to the material. Sign up for the course at Harper or at your community colleges and utilize this as a supplement. You get a good, solid, basic understanding of international finance, and then when you transfer over, you're going to take the same concept, you just keep on building on that at a higher level. So right now, you're looking at terminology. There's a lot of terms, a lot of concepts. You're learning a whole new language. So remember, community college is your best bet for your money, for a refresher course, for those who are taking it, for those in the business, it's your taxes you're paying anyway, you know, to your local community colleges. You're a lot of times tied with the Small Business Association, which is also has an umbrella that's tied with import and exporting with the gov that they work with, especially small businesses. And what's a small business? Depends on, you know, the dollars or how many customers in your individual classification or market. But anyway, for lack of better words, we'll be talking chapter 7. This is Finance 225, government influence on exchange rates. This is an extension. You already had it in economics, so you're just not tying in at a macro level. As a multinational organization or any company, you should be aware of what's going on, because we import or export in the global market. We're a global economy. All right, so I'll see you in the next chapter, and thank you for taking it. And you know, look me up at a college. More students ask for me as a contractor and adjunct. I'll be able to get more courses. I'm trying to throw that in. I'm a double major in marketing and management, trying to pay off my student loans. Okay, so thank you for taking this course, and we appreciate it. Bye.